there is a disagreement in the government. Basically, the majority of the legislature versus the governor's office about the value of participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. The people who passed this bill and saw Reggie get established were very hopeful that this would be one of the ways in which New Jersey could continue its leadership in the production of energy efficiency and also alternate energy sources. When the new administration came in, there was a fiscal crisis. The Reggie money was consumed into the general revenues. So there's never been actually a penny spent under Reggie for any of the purposes intended. The governor then made the decision that the participation of New Jersey in Reggie was a mistake. For those people who know nothing about it, Reggie is a consortium of 10 states, basically in the northeastern part of the United States, wherein we are doing what is affectionately known as cap and trade, wherein those producers of large amounts of carbon-based energy pay a surcharge. That surcharge would go into this Reggie fund and be used for offsetting activities like conservation and alternative energy. Never had an opportunity to spend a penny on alternative energy or conservation. The legislature continues, the majority of the legislature continues to have a disagreement with the governor that we are making a mistake in our public policy, that we should continue in the Reggie program. So this bill changes may to shall. Under the prior legislation, New Jersey permissibly could go forward and participate in Reggie. This bill will say you must participate in Reggie. Now, for those who are unaware of the legislative process, the legislature passes a bill. The governor doesn't sign it. It's vetoed. It's vetoed. The only way it becomes law is if the veto is overridden. I think we tried this in one session. Did we get to the override? We didn't get to the override. So I think this is just a continuation of the expression that we're making a mistake. And we have a number of people who signed up to talk about it. I would ask that you be succinct. Why don't we start with Reverend Fletcher Harper from Green Faith. Reverend Harper.
My name is Fletcher Harper, and I'm Executive Director of Green Faith, which is an interfaith environmental coalition here in New Jersey. Normally, we work with faith-based groups around the state from the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, and Buddhist communities, and speak with and work with on a regular basis over 1,000 faith-based groups statewide. Normally when I testify at a hearing such as this, I would be here to make the moral case for support of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. But based on the research that we've done, it seems to me that it's quite clear that simple self-interest does the job. Reggie creates jobs, it saves money, it creates net economic benefits for the state. And it seems to me that from reviewing the research on Reggie's impacts to date that is done by nonpartisan sources, that evidence is fairly consistent and fairly clear. The long-term benefits of Reggie in terms of creating a model not only for this region but for the country in terms of fighting climate change is absolutely vital to the future of New Jersey and its well-being. And we strongly support this legislation, which would clarify the intent of the Global Warming Response Act and make it clear that New Jersey needs to stay in Reggie. Thank you very much for the chance to testify.
Thank you, Chairman. Sarah Bloom on behalf of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And I think we've seen one lesson coming true through Reggie. Our neighbors next door haven't been participating, but what we've still been getting is the dirty air coming from Pennsylvania and Ohio. And as a result, what we've ended up doing is having our facilities, which have had improvements and upgrades made to them, end up costing more for the electricity. And as you may be aware, within PJM, the way that electricity is bid in, it is the lowest cost that gets called on. And so if our friends in Pennsylvania and Ohio have coal plants which are dirtier but cheaper to run, then what ends up happening is they're the ones that get called on. Well, our plants here in New Jersey, which may be cleaner but more expensive because of things like the RGGI allowance, don't get called on. And so what you end up doing is artificially increasing the price of electricity and having no environmental gain as a result, because we aren't running the clean plants then. You're running the dirtier plants. And so we're opposed to being in RGGI because other power plants within our grid are not on RGGI. And we were never able to account for the leakage factor within RGGI. That was one of its fatal flaws. We can't just erect a giant wall between us and Pennsylvania and stop the dirty air coming over. So what we would rather see the state doing instead of being a part of RGGI is to continue on with the Section 126 petitions and other actions such as that, which would force the power plants in Pennsylvania to clean up. We think that would do more for our air quality and for our residents than being in RGGI. And therefore, we're opposed to your bill. Thank you, Senator.
I submitted written testimony, so I'll just hit the highlights and keep it brief. I know you have a lot of people here. Environment New Jersey strongly supports this bill, and it's for a few reasons. I think back when we debated this bill the last time around in June, we heard a lot of misinformation about how RGGI is bad for the environment, how it's bad for the economy, and how it's hurting ratepayers. We now have the benefit of a lot of independent data and independent economic analyses that show that actually quite the opposite is true. One thing I think we'll see, if New Jersey fails to be part of the RGGI program, we're leaving millions of dollars in revenue on the table. So in just that, if we miss this next auction in March, we'll pass up $10 million in revenue that could be coming into New Jersey to help fund clean energy programs. We'll pass up $10 million in revenue at the next auction in June. We'll pass up $10 million in revenue at the next auction in September. And we'll pass up $10 million in revenue at the next auction in December. So without this bill, by the end of the year alone, New Jersey will forfeit over $40 million in revenue that could have helped grow the economy, support New Jersey businesses, clear our air, and fight global warming. If the program continues as it's going today, without any modifications whatsoever, New Jersey will pass up $170 million in revenue just over the next 6 years. If we actually work with neighboring states to improve the program and make it stronger, as is happening right now, we'll miss out on over $680 million in revenue for clean energy programs. I'll just say in our testimony you'll see that, so in addition to the economic benefits, we also show the consumer benefits and the environmental benefits of the program. It's a win-win-win on all three fronts, and we urge you to support the bill.
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on S1322. I'm Amy Henson with New Jersey Conservation Foundation, and we support this bill because it requires New Jersey's continued participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. RGGI has already been successful in raising funds and putting those funds to work to implement energy efficiency and conservation. Energy efficiency and conservation, which should become our first choice of fuel going forward, helps to reduce energy sprawl. We at NJCF have been preserving land and natural resources for over 50 years, and we are constantly facing pressures to allow energy generation and transmission on conserved and open land. RGGI not only helps clean our air and reduce asthma, it also reduces pressure on those critical open lands and natural resources. So please support S1322 and support job creation and a cleaner environment for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And let me just correct the record. I have been corrected by staff that in the first year of RGGI, we actually had a few dollars that we did use for energy conservation and alternative energy, so let me correct the record in that respect.
Good morning. Thanks for the chance to testify. My name is Bill Wolf. I'm Director of New Jersey Peer, Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility. I want to take a step back and explain why I oppose this bill, because I'm looking at it through the lens of a strategy to implement the Global Warming Response Act goals and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is the most pressing need on the environmental side. And this bill does not do that, and I'm glad to hear my colleagues in the environmental community not even making that assertion anymore. The model for this bill, in the late 1990s, the Whitman administration adopted what was known as the Open Market Emissions Trading Program. That was a market-based Clean Air Act program. At the time, I was policy director of the Sierra Club and spent a lot of time diagnosing and calling out the structural flaws and policy problems and technical loopholes in that program. Petitioned EPA, worked with our colleagues in Washington and filed an Inspector General's report. Petitioned EPA Region 2 for enforcement for sources that had used those credits, those emission credits, to demonstrate Clean Air Act, what's known as RACT compliance. At any rate, the system worked then. There was investigation, there was compliance review, and it turned out that the claims made by sources in documenting their emissions credits were fraudulent. There were massive systemic violations of the program. Ultimately, it was withdrawn. Brad Campbell withdrew it in 2002, and EPA did as well. And this program, the design of this program, fits that model. And I need to make that historical point because proponents of cap and trade argue that the 1990 Clean Air Act sulfur dioxide acid rain program is the model to show that cap and trade can work. And I submitted written testimony with a number of links and policy papers that lay out why that is a false analogy, why that's a bad model. And I urge the committee and others to look at the YouTube presentation by two EPA enforcement attorneys who we're working with nationally. The two of them have over 40 years' experience in cap and trade programs. One supervises the California cap and trade program. And they lay out very, very cogently the critique of why cap and trade cannot work. And RGGI as a cap and trade program can't work. And lastly, with just one point of fact that the Reverend wants to talk about science, I'll focus on the data. The RGGI program at its outset when it was designed was negotiated in a way that provided a cushion, that the cap was set higher than the current emissions to provide sources a little cushion. That cushion ranged in the RGGI states between 9 and 14% above emissions. Now what happened was the economy tanked and natural gas prices dropped, and so greenhouse gas emissions went down, and fuel switching resulted in additional reductions. So the RGGI cap is now 30% above the current emissions. So RGGI actually actively promotes increases in greenhouse gas emissions because you're not locking into the reductions that have been made as a result of the market and as a result of fuel switching. And if you don't amend this bill to do at least that, to lock in the reductions that we already have, you're actually actively promoting increase in greenhouse gas emissions. And last, and if you don't believe me, I'll close with a quote from Dr. James Hansen, the globally most recognized global warming scientist on Earth. Quote, and this is a quote, and I participated in an event with him at the Bank of America and NRDC 2 years before any Occupy Wall Street type movements. This was an event we did up in New York City to call out the Bank of America for their financing of cap and trade schemes and the NRDC for its ill-advised support of that. Quote, cap and trade with offsets would guarantee that we pass climate tipping points, locking in climate disasters for our children. Cap and trade benefits only Wall Street and polluters, sacrificing humanity and nature for their profits. End quote.
I just wanted to start out and say that I'm glad that Sarah Bloom believes we should spend millions of dollars of taxpayer money suing each coal plant in Pennsylvania and Ohio one at a time. You know, it costs New Jersey a couple $100 million to do that versus actually supporting cross-state air pollution rule or the mercury reduction rule to get at those pollutants coming from out of state. I just found that kind of interesting that the BIA would be willing to spend so much money on lawyer fees to go after each coal plant in Pennsylvania and Ohio, 150 plants, a couple of million a plant, and versus actually supporting things like RGGI and climate legislation and bills like this. So I just wanted to start off with that. I wanted to say that RGGI has worked, and RGGI is not quite the same as a cap and trade program. It's a system of allowances, and how it actually works is it's a very small sales tax on carbon. Since New Jersey only gets a certain amount of its electricity from carbon-based fuels, it's actually a relatively small surcharge. It's less than a quarter of 1 cent on your average bill. And it has worked. It has helped create almost 1,800 jobs here in New Jersey. And because of energy efficiency and other savings from reductions of greenhouse gases, it's reduced us by 84,000 metric tons from the different programs it's helped support, like combined heat and power. In fact, last month, it was earlier this month, the Economic Development Authority, because RGGI funds had gone to EDA to pay for combined heat and power for many of New Jersey's industries. Because there's no more RGGI money, they actually took $55 million out of the clean energy monies that were set aside for things like rebates for people, for consumers to put solar on their homes, which we've now ended. Money from the rebate program also goes for people to buy high efficient furnaces and hot water heaters as well as appliances. So the monies that RGGI actually was bringing into New Jersey were needed by this administration, and they had to go and take it from another source and raid the Clean Energy Fund. So we do know that RGGI has helped bring jobs to New Jersey, has helped lower energy costs for people through energy efficiency, and has helped reduce pollution. The other point I want to make is that, yes, Pennsylvania is not part of it, but there are 9 other states. And those businesses that would be coming to New Jersey, because we've pulled out of RGGI, are being recruited by Governor O'Malley in Maryland and Governor Deval Patrick up in Massachusetts. So there is a regional compact. It has worked. It has created jobs. It has reduced pollution. And so to us, New Jersey needs to be part of that, because otherwise those funds and those jobs will go to those other states, which will gladly take them. And I think that's another important reason for this bill. And the final point I wanted to address a little bit on the trading system. This was designed by Governor Pataki. This is a modest proposal. I mean, if the Sierra Club designed a carbon system, it would be a carbon tax with mandatory caps. This was designed to be a flexible system and to be a pilot project for a better program coming later. And that's one of the keys in why New Jersey should stay in RGGI, because now the other states are working for a more comprehensive agreement that would actually reduce more pollution, extend beyond the electrical sector, and actually do a lot better job, because they first wanted to try to get it right and work on it as a pilot and then expand it. And so New Jersey will miss the boat, and we will miss hundreds of millions of dollars in clean energy monies. Thank you.
I can understand that there are flaws with RGGI, but that doesn't mean you pull out of it. That means you stay in it, you fight it, and you fight the people who are, fraudulently, misrepresenting what's happening, and you fix it. You don't go away from the table because it's not going 100% the way you want it. If we spent $68 million, not a few bucks in the first year, on alternative energy, why is our governor taking that money out of there and using it to fund other programs? Yes, I know we have a financial crisis, but the answer to a financial crisis is not to pull back from something that's going to help your state. Yes, one of our neighbors is not included, but there are a bunch of other neighbors who are included, and we should support that effort. Delaware looked at pulling out and did not pull out. New Hampshire looked at pulling out and decided to make a slight change in how they work instead. There are so many opportunities other than just walking away from the table, and I would like to see our legislature stand up for that. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you very much for providing this opportunity. The League of Women Voters of New Jersey supports S1322, keeping our state in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and we ask that you release this bill out of committee. You have copies of my written testimony, but I did want to note a few things. Firstly, when the 10 northeastern states signed on to RGGI, New Jersey assumed a leadership role in this activity. It's embarrassing that we're no longer in a leadership position and we're backing out from something that we believed so strongly in just a few years ago. Most of the funds, according to November 2011 study by the Boston consulting firm Analysis Group, quarterly auctions of CO2 credits have raised $912 million over the past 3 years for participating states, and $118 million for New Jersey specifically. Most of the funds have been used for programs that encourage energy efficiency and provide assistance for low-income households in the participating states. Thus, RGGI provides social, economic, and environmental benefits to our state. I just wanted to comment on something that Bill Wolf said about the sulfur dioxide role model. We now have empirical data from a study that was done by the Analysis Group. It's a nonprofit based in Boston. They did a study called The Economic Impacts of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative on 10 Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. And I would love it if you would take the time to read it. It has a lot of information. But according to Paul Hibbard, who was a vice president with the Analysis Group, RGGI is fundamentally rooted in states' rights. Regardless of what they invested in, each state benefited from capturing the value of the RGGI allowances for public benefit, reinvesting the auction proceeds back into the local economy, and reducing fossil fuel demand. And those states that made the energy efficiency a priority reaped the greater economic benefits. Now, it's been stated that a large percentage of the money New Jersey made was used to close the budget deficits in 2010-11 and also proposed for 2012. But our state has made some investment in energy efficiency. A report issued in 2011 states that through the year 2010, the New Jersey Clean Energy Solutions Capital Investment Loan Grant Program awarded $29.6 million in CO2 allowance proceeds to 12 large-scale energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. These 12 projects represent 29.6 megawatts of new clean electric generation capacity, and they're projected to generate more than 167 million kilowatts of electricity annually, enough to meet the equivalent needs of more than 19,600 New Jersey households each year. Greenhouse gas reduction cannot be achieved in isolation. In the absence of stringent national action to cut down on greenhouse gases, regional action is our best hope for reducing carbon dioxide emissions. That is why the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is so significant. Withdrawal from RGGI should not be an option for New Jersey. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Megan Brass, and I'm the Conservation Advocate in New Jersey Audubon's Department of Government Relations. Founded in 1897, New Jersey Audubon is one of the oldest independent Audubon societies and has 23,000 members. The implications of changes associated with climate change stand to be significant, with impacts to humans, to wildlife, and to plants. Human health is affected by extreme periods of heat and cold, storms, and smog episodes. Wildlife are impacted to changes to food and water availability and habitat quality. Species range shifts are already being seen, as are impacts to behaviors such as migration and reproduction. As a coastal state with 127 miles of shoreline, the impacts of climate change in New Jersey are already visible in the form of sea level rise. New Jersey Audubon values the consensus of the scientific community and believes a responsible means of addressing climate change is necessary. This includes active planning to enhance species adaptation, such as facilitating range shifts through increasing habitat connectivity and reducing other pressures that species already face. Greenhouse gas mitigation, though, must also be a part of the solution. RGGI is a pre-existing approach that requires a lot less command and control than other methods for reducing emissions. By funding clean energy and reducing emissions from power plants, RGGI not only improves New Jersey's air quality, but brings us closer to addressing climate change and protecting human health and wildlife. New Jersey Audubon strongly supports New Jersey's participation in RGGI. There have been economic gains and greenhouse gas emissions reductions as a result. Participation in RGGI now ensures that New Jersey is committed and on track to reducing its fair share of the problem. It also ensures that New Jersey has a seat at the table when it comes to making improvements to this first regional approach to curbing greenhouse gases that has already proven to be a national example. Finally, participation in RGGI confirms the value of efforts already underway in the state and provides an opportunity to prepare for the likely future state, regional, national, and international policies that will seek to cap and further reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Scott Needham. I'm president of Princeton Air Conditioning. We're a 41-year-old company with 46 employees in Princeton Junction, New Jersey. And today I'm representing two groups. My company is a small business doing work in the area of energy efficiency and renewables, and as co-chair of Efficiency First, which is a contractor trade association that has 47 New Jersey companies as members and 1,000 companies nationally. We all do energy efficiency work. In the last 3 years, my company has seen tremendous growth in the area of energy efficiency and renewables. And to help manage that growth, I've sought out and been awarded Department of Labor grant money to train the very people that RGGI puts to work in energy efficiency, solar thermal, geothermal, those types of jobs. And as these folks finish their training, I need to find projects that will support these new skills. And to find that business, there needs to be demand. And we feel strongly that the revenue stream from RGGI that flows into our state helps to build that demand and that market. So as a business person, I'm a little confused about the disconnect regarding this training grant money and the lack of our participation or possible participation in RGGI. It just strikes me as odd. They should be aligned, and I think RGGI really could connect those dots. When I'm out there talking to my customers and I ask them about the impact that the RGGI tax has on their operation, they all look at me and claim that it does not have an impact. So in closing, I applaud the governor on the many things that are helping to get our fiscal house in order, but pulling out of RGGI seems to be misguided and a path that will negatively impact the future of the clean energy economy. With RGGI intact, I see a bright future for job growth and a clean energy economy. Thanks very much.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. Thank you for this piece of legislation. We support S1322. New Jersey must maintain its leadership role in providing clean energy, in addressing climate change and developing renewable resources, and allowing our state to snub our neighbors while simultaneously criticizing them, in some cases pursuing legal action, is quite embarrassing. And if you're like many New Jerseyans and you're tired of our state being laughed at, and you'll send a clear message by passing this legislation and moving it forward so that we can get back into the program and that we're going to participate and work together to address this important issue. In addition to the economic benefits and jobs, climate change is among the most important environmental and economic issues facing New Jersey and the global community. Our coastal ecosystems and human communities are likely to be severely impacted by sea level rise, increased storm events associated with the climate change. And New Jersey can't afford to abandon our commitment to leading these efforts to address climate change through RGGI. This initiative is critical to maintaining that leadership role and our position in addressing climate change. So thank you again for moving this bill forward and look forward to working with you on it.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad.